Well, hello there. I hope you're having a good day, as always. Thank you so much to May123 UAN for today's video suggestion. If you're not paying enough attention, you might just think that Giyu is a simple man who barely speaks. But if we dig a little deeper, we will find a story of guilt and loss. Oh, and you might want to grab some popcorn because this video is going to be long. So let's get right into the full story of Giyu Tomioka. This video has full spoilers for basically the entire story of the Demon Slayer manga. We start as we start every story, the beginning. Giyu's sister had died protecting him from demons the day before her wedding. Later, Giyu would be trained by Mr. Urokodaki, and he met a young boy named Sabito. They were the same age, so they became friends. During their time in the Wisteria prison, Sabito pretty much defeated every demon by himself. Everyone got to live, except for Sabito himself. Giyu was injured by a demon. Sabito saved him, and gave him to others to protect him. But Giyu blacked out, and when he came to, final selection was over. After time, Giyu would eventually work his way up to becoming a Hashira, although he would never feel like one, always feeling that he wasn't worthy. He continued to work for the Demon Slayer Corps, and one day was sent on a mission to Mount Kumotori. This day would change everything. After going through the forest, he would eventually find a demon attacking a young boy. He immediately would jump for the kill, but the young boy in a second moves the demon out of the way. He queries as to why the young boy would protect the demon, and the young boy says that it's his younger sister. Of course, this young boy right now seems like a child suffering from loss, deluded into thinking that his sister is still a human. In a second, Giyu snatches the girl off the young boy and tells him that his job is to kill demons, so he'll kill his demon sister. The young boy begs for Nezuko's life. He begs incessantly to please let his sister go, that she hasn't eaten anyone yet. Giyu very rightfully points out that the young boy looked as if he was about to just be eaten. The young boy begs and pleads, but Giyu, thinking this young boy is just a grieving fool, ignores his pleas. Until the young boy begs with his head down, he scolds the young boy, telling him that he is not protecting his sister at all. He says, "Why don't you throw your axe? Why don't you attack me?" Giyu stabs Nezuko, and the young boy becomes aggressive instantly, throwing a rock at Giyu and then coming to him straight on. Giyu instantly stops his attack, without doing any permanent damage to the young boy, but then he realizes that something is off. Where is the axe? From the sky, the axe comes, and Giyu barely dodges it. He understands now the young boy's goal was never to win, it was to lose, and then win afterwards, sacrificing himself for his sister's survival. As Giyu is deep in thought, Nezuko pushes him away. He expects the young boy to be eaten, but Nezuko attempts to protect the young boy. Even more so, Nezuko has a massive wound that will need blood to heal. Demons who are hungry will eat their own siblings, so this demon not doing this is enough to convince Giyu that maybe there might be a chance that the young boy isn't entirely incorrect. There might be a chance that the young boy is right. Nezuko goes on the offensive, and with a hand, Giyu knocks her out. He waits for the young boy to awake, and then when he does, he tells him to go meet a man named Urokodaki at the foot of the Misty Mountain. Then, he tells the young boy to make sure that also Nezuko doesn't die to the sunlight, and with that, Giyu leaves. Within the next day, he sends a Kasagai crow to Mr. Urokodaki to give the young boy and demon girl a chance, and to train the young boy so that he may become a good swordsman. He does this in a very humble manner, saying that he understands the selfishness of his request. Giyu would then go about his usual Hashira business, being sent on one-off missions, but eventually he would get an emergency call to Mount Notogomu, and as soon as he arrived he saw a young Demon Slayer Corps member about to be killed by a string of webs. He jumped and let out a brutal slash, cutting all the strings around the boy. He tells the young boy to rest up and let him finish the other demons. The demon charges up an attack, but Giyu uses his 11th style to kill the evil demon. Urokodaki only taught Giyu up to 10 styles, but Giyu is so strong that he made his own 11th style, completely unique, every technique that enters Giyu's area stops and instantly becomes nothing, and with that advantage, the demon dies. The young boy reaches out for the clothes of the dead demon, and Giyu tramples on them, telling the young boy to not care for demons. The young boy resists this idea and explains that their lives were meaningful, and that if one regrets their actions taken as a demon, he will never disrespect that. And then Giyu realizes who he is talking to. It's the boy from Mount Kumotori. But then another Hashira sent on an emergency mission as well comes, with the direct intent to kill Nezuko the demon. But Giyu deflects her attack. Giyu informs the girl that she is not hated, and she says that he is hated, which is really kind of mean. Of course, this does actually impact Giyu. Of course it does. She's telling him that his own doubts are real. He tells the boy to run as fast as he can, and he does. Giyu restrains Shinobu and tries to explain, but Shinobu won't listen. And just as Shinobu is about to actually try and damage Giyu, a Kasakura crow blares out that Tanjiro, the one we have known as young boy up until this point, and Nezuko the demon are to be restrained and brung to the HQ, ending Giyu and Shinobu's fighting. They make their way to HQ. When they arrive, they have a Hashira meeting, where it is said that Giyu will be given a punishment for breaking the rules, even though this is never really explored later. But for now, they will discuss Tanjiro. Shinobu is even genuinely nice to him, giving him some water and medicine. But then Nezuko is tormented by another Hashira known as Sanemi. The other Hashiras are actually disturbed by this, and Tanjiro gets really mad. But Giyu says it's best to calm down, as the master is coming. It doesn't stop Tanjiro though, and he still headbutts the Hashira, telling him that if he cannot tell the difference between good and bad demons, he should quit being Hashira. As he's saying this, the master arrives. Everyone bows in respect, and the master reads a letter from Mr. Urokodaki, asking to forgive Tanjiro for being with a demon, and that if Nezuko hurts a human, Tanjiro, Urokodaki, and Giyu will all kill themselves as an apology. Giyu does not reject this, meaning that he is putting his life on the line for Tanjiro. Despite this, Sanemi tries to trick Nezuko into eating his blood again, and Tanjiro is furious about this disrespect. But Obanai stops him, but Giyu stops Obanai, letting Tanjiro go, and Nezuko doesn't eat Sanemi's blood or arm, she resists it. Mr. Obanai gets mildly annoyed at Giyu restricting his arm, and Tanjiro is taken away to a different place called the Butterfly Mansion. Months later, Giyu has been minding his own business when a Kusagai crow lands near him, telling him that the Hashira known as Rengoku is deceased. He shuts it down, ignoring it. There's too much death in Giyu's life, and he's become numb to it now. From there, Giyu would go about his way for a long time, doing what he usually does. And as the time drew closer for the final conflict, Giyu would not participate in Hashira training. One day, Giyu was interrupted by the call of someone familiar. That boy from all that time ago. Tanjiro. Tanjiro would place himself in the house, and they would discuss the Hashira training, and Tanjiro asks if he would like to train with him. Giyu says no, and he is mad that Tanjiro did not master water breathing. Tanjiro asks why, because Giyu is the water Hashira already, to which Giyu states that he is not, and he leaves. Tanjiro follows him over and over, and on the 4th day of continuous stalking, Giyu spoke. He said that he never passed final selection. He explains that he didn't deserve it because Sabato was the one to do all the work. Sabato was the one to be strong. He should never have lived. But Giyu didn't even kill one measly demon, and he passed the training. Giyu says he is not worthy of being the War Hashira. Tanjiro asks Giyu, isn't whatever Sabato entrusted to you keeping you together? And then Giyu remembers something important. A conversation between him and Sabato. Don't you say that you'd be better off dying ever again. If you do, you and I are done. We'll stop being friends. Your sister was supposed to get married the next day, and despite knowing that, she hid you from the demons and protected you. You have nobody else? That's an insult to your sister. You can't die, ever. That life she lost to protect you, that future she left for you, they're still with you. He had somehow forgot this conversation from his childhood. He didn't want to remember it. The tears just wouldn't stop. Whenever he remembered the dead, he got so sad he couldn't do anything. Giyu changes his mind. He decides he will join the Hashira training, and Tanjiro asks if he would like to have a cold sober eating contest, so they do have one of those. Cool. One day, the Hashira had their own meeting, where they discussed how the master should have 2 bodyguards at the least. But even after 8 years of Gyomei's constant asking, the master wouldn't budge. And then one night, with no warning, an explosion is heard. They were too late. The Hashira all arrive to HQ, and there they find Muzan. But even though all the Hashira have prepared their attack, Muzan has another trick up his sleeve, the Infinity Castle. Tanjiro swears that he will kill Muzan tonight. Tanjiro falls down the Infinity Castle and is about to die, but Giyu saves him. Tanjiro thanks Giyu, but they are very quickly attacked by an onslaught of demons. Tanjiro uses the 6th form, and Giyu uses the 3rd, in one strike to get rid of all the demons. They make their way through the infinite halls of the Infinity Castle. They continue making their way through the Infinity Castle. Tanjiro almost falls off, and he saves himself at the last second, and Giyu reminds him to stay sharp or else. They continue walking, but then a Kasagai crow calls out. Shinobu is dead, killed by upper rank 2. But this time won't be like last time. Giyu won't fall into a pit of despair. He won't forget or suppress the dead. This time, he will use the sacrifices of those who have gone, and he will make sure that he does his best in this final battle. They continue moving, and a couple of minutes later, there is a massive tremor. It's getting closer. And from above comes out Akaza, the killer of Rengoku. They immediately begin fighting, and Tanjiro slices Akaza's arm. Tanjiro and Akaza are insanely quick. Tanjiro also eventually slices Akaza's face. Giyu says that Tanjiro is at the level of a Hashira. He remembers the day that Tanjiro first came to him, when Tanjiro fell into despair, and the only thing Tanjiro could do was beg. But now, Tanjiro can fight. He can maintain his dignity and choose for himself. And the fight begins. Giyu releases a barrage of attacks on Akaza. Both of them try to attack him at the same time, and they succeed, but it takes mere seconds for Akaza to completely regenerate his entire arm. Akaza asks for Giyu's name, but Giyu refuses to give it to him. Akaza lashes out his attack on him at close range, sending him flying through multiple rooms and buildings. Tanjiro accidentally drops Giyu's name in shock. It takes Giyu a while to recover, but eventually he does. Complaining about his back pain, he realises that Akaza is actually strong, and that this the entire time has been a battle of life or death. He has gained his mark. He unleashes everything, and they keep fighting. It's so intense that Tanjiro cannot even intervene. Despite everything, Akaza still seems to be taking little to no damage, and Akaza has learnt every single one of Giyu's attacks. Akaza says he knows Giyu is out of moves, and he says he will end this now. He destroys Giyu's blade, and then he goes for the finishing kill. But Tanjiro stopped him, cutting off his arm. Akaza releases a massive attack on the area, striking everywhere in random directions, and Giyu is hit by a lot of these attacks. He couldn't dodge all of them. Akaza offers for Giyu to become a demon, but what Akaza doesn't realise is that Tanjiro is still alive right behind him. Tanjiro very briefly kills Akaza. Akaza tries to come back, but Giyu throws his sword. But no, Akaza will not die. Akaza throws Tanjiro into a wall and gets ready to finish the job. But Giyu steps in. Barely still able to breathe, Giyu hits Akaza, and Akaza doesn't take any damage. But Giyu will not back down, and he will protect Tanjiro at all costs. He will not let his family or friends die again. He will protect Tanjiro, and he readies himself for battle. And just as he does, Tanjiro wakes up, and he goes on the attack. But his grip fails, and he loses his sword halfway. He continues and punches Akaza in the face, and then throws himself at Mr. Giyu. But as he looks back, he sees Akaza smile one last time, before Akaza performs his biggest attack yet out of nowhere, on no one other than himself, and then he walks away and finally dies. Tanjiro is happy to see it's finally over, but then both Giyu and Tanjiro collapse from exhaustion as the Kusugai Crow tells the other Slayers that they have defeated Upper Rank 3. Hours later, Tanjiro wakes up to the sound and smell of fire. He jolts up, but it's just Giyu who is inflaming his sword so he can burn his own wound shut. They then have a brief conversation, and they say that this is just the beginning of the fight. But as they are talking about this pessimistically, we get the information from a Kusugai Crow that Upper Rank 2 has been defeated. They are starting to win, or at the very least it feels like it. Tanjiro and Giyu would eventually get the strength to move on again, but the Kusugai Crow would tell them something that they didn't want to hear. Genya and Tokito have died. They kept progressing through the castle, and eventually they ran into the Demon King, Muzan Kibutsuji. Tanjiro is enraged, but even still, Giyu tells him to calm down, despite the fact it is clear that Giyu is obviously also mad himself. Muzan goes on about how anyone who's died from him has died to something as natural as a volcano, or a tornado, or any other great calamity, and that anyone who died by him shouldn't be upset because it was simply just something natural. And for the first time, we see Tanjiro say something out of character. He says that Muzan shouldn't exist, that his existence is disgusting. Muzan releases a wave of attacks on the two, and they both have to dodge. They both know there is no point in getting close to him because he is too strong. Muzan comments on how they are waiting for the sun, and shares the information that Obanai and Mitsuri have been killed. Tanjiro's eye is hit, but then Mitsuri appears? And so does Obanai. So Muzan was lying? No, Yushiro has been manipulating her vision, showing Muzan incorrect things for whoever knows long. Yushiro tries to use his ability to manipulate the Infinity Castle to make Muzan cornered. Giyu and Obanai go off on the offensive, attacking Muzan. But Muzan, using his mind, kills the girl, and they are all thrown into the real world outside of the Infinity Castle. They got Muzan outside, but there is still a while till sunrise. Giyu and the other Hashira attack Muzan, and they cut his neck, but he regenerates the instant it's cut, making all attacks deal 0 damage. An insane amount of low-level Demon Slayer Corps members die trying to protect the Hashira and getting them back to safety. But Giyu eventually looks and finds out that Tanjiro has died. All the Hashira try their hardest, but Muzan is too strong. Gyomei arrives to help out. Giyu calls out for Murata to go and help Tanjiro, to try and treat his wounds if it's even possible. The fight continues and Mitsuri is hit. They try to assist her as she is in pain. Giyu almost drops his sword in the heat of battle, but he gets right back to it. He reminds himself that he is the Water Hashira and that he can do this. The fight goes on, and Obanai and everyone else is getting weaker. Sanemi connects with Giyu, and their blades become bright red as they prepare to fight together. The Kusugai Crow revealing that it has only been 27 minutes, and there is an hour and 3 minutes left of this fight. Sometime later, Giyu is fading out again. He knows they lost. He can't move. His arm is gone. He knows Kano is next up to die, but he can't do anything about it. But just as she is about to be killed, Tanjiro stops Muzan, telling him that it's time to finish this. And at that point, Giyu passes out. When he wakes up, it's the early morning. The sun is almost out. He runs back to the battlefield to help Tanjiro, and he keeps Muzan pinned with him. Muzan eventually swells up and tries to escape, but Giyu attacks and makes sure that he dies. And then, he does. Muzan finally dies. Giyu immediately tries to find Tanjiro to make sure that he is safe, and then he sees him dead. He apologizes that he couldn't protect him. Just like everyone else, he was the one who needed protecting. He keeps apologizing over and over, but before he can go into despair again, Tanjiro gets back up and tries to kill Giyu. Tanjiro is now a demon. No matter how hard it is, Giyu calls for everyone to try and kill Tanjiro. Tanjiro hits Giyu. Tanjiro wraps himself around Nezuko and seems dangerous, but he seems to be protecting her. He is trying to resist the urge of the demon inside him. He won't kill Nezuko, but then Kano gives Tanjiro the medicine to make him human, and eventually he comes back to us as a human. Giyu is pleased, but he is exhausted. Muzan is finally, truly defeated, and days later, Giyu attends the final Hashira meeting with Sanemi. They are thanked for their time, and Giyu tells the young new master that he should be proud of their work, and that brings the young master to tears. Later, Giyu and Mr. Urokodaki are talking, and Nezuko and Tanjiro appear, and this is the end of Giyu's appearance in the main story. But, in the not so distant future, we see the descendants of Makomo, Sabato, and Giyu as kids together again. Makomo is too poor to afford any more of the funny little masks, but Giyu gives her his money. So in the end, Giyu is finally able to be the one to protect his friends and make them happy. Wow, this video took a long time to make, so I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching as always, and I hope you are having a good day. Goodbye.